And whereas he is an idiot, and whereas we can't, and whereas.
All right. I'm going to call the meeting. Call the meeting to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Good evening. Councilmember Acuna,
Here.
Councilmember Borelli,
Here.
Mayor Wilkins,
Here.
Vice Mayor Clarici,
Here.
Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
Okay. Announcements and presentations to the public. Presentation by and recognition for the El Dorado County Community Foundation and the Greater Sacramento Area Softball Foundation to the Director of Community Services for funds to purchase scoreboards for Lions Park.
Woohoo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you may recall, at our last City Council meeting, City Council unanimously approved a project to put in 2 new scoreboards at our Lions Park. And we thought tonight would be a great opportunity to share with you and introduce those people who were instrumental in bringing this project forward for the city. So I'd like to start with the City of Placerville's Recreation Superintendent, Matt Lishman, who's in the audience, and he'd like to come up and make a few additional introductions to those people who were most instrumental in making this project possible. So with that, Matt.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I just would like to say how excited I am to be here before you tonight to introduce our donors that made these scoreboards possible for the city of Placerville that have been long overdue. So it's going to be a very, very important, exciting, part of our new softball community. So the first person I would like to introduce and invite up to the microphone is Jeff Dubchansky with the Greater Sacramento Softball Association.
Good evening. I always say you get a nice reception when you're bringing a check. I represent over 10,000 kids that play softball and 2,000 adult teams in we call the Greater Sacramento area. Really, we stretch all the way from Dixon up to South Lake Tahoe and from Galt to Lincoln. So in the country, it's a small area, but we have one of the largest associations in the country with numbers. And this is one of the fun things that I get to do as the commissioner. It's a volunteer job, but I do get to handle some of the good stuff. And as the commissioner, again, we represent a large softball community, and Placerville has always been a great partner with us. I've been the commissioner now. This is my 18th year as the commissioner, and Placerville has been a partner with us since day one. And, we work with the adult program. We work with the kids that play softball. And over the years, my 18 years, we've given out over $180,000 in grants to local communities. And these go to our 23 partners, those that run adult and youth softball throughout the region. So with that, I'm happy to present a check tonight for $2,500. That's the maximum grant we're allowed to give out. So, I appreciate what Matt and Monique and the rest of the staff have done for the program, and I'm proud to be able to present that with you tonight.
Thank you.
So do you like the... But you don't get to keep that.
Very good idea.
Cute. That's
Reusable check. Thank you.
Here's the real one.
Oh, all right. Give the money to Dave Warren.
Easier to take the bank.
He wants that reusable check.
All right, thanks again to Jeff Dubchansky and the Greater Sacramento Softball Association. The next organization I'd like to introduce and bring up to the microphone, and thank you very much, is the El Dorado Community Foundation. And I would like to invite Lene Boys to the microphone. And I know she's got several staff members in the audience, so I will let her do the talking.
Thank you. I forgot my step stool. I'd like to invite Pam Hagan and Bill Roby up to stand behind me and support me, because it takes a team to do this. So as Matt said, I'm Lene Boys, and I'm the program officer at the El Dorado Community Foundation. So I'm lucky enough to be in the position to connect our local givers with our community recipients. So each year, the Community Foundation administers 8 grant cycles and 19 scholarships. And this is on behalf of the generous donors of our El Dorado County. In my role, I administer these grants and scholarship processes. For grants, that means making our local nonprofits aware that there is funding available and helping them apply for the grants. And then it's giving our selection committees the tools so they can make their best selections. And we are also giving our largest grant of the year to the Community Services Department. And our largest grants come from our Endow El Dorado Fund. This fund was established in 1996 and continues to be funded by El Dorado County community members through donations as small as $40 and as large as $50,000. Every single one makes a difference. When we combine and invest these funds, it gives the foundation the ability to impact our county, our residents, and tonight we are presenting a grant that impacts the city of Placerville, so yay. Lions Park is the only lighted softball complex in El Dorado County and hosts approximately 4,000 softball players per year. But this little park's scoreboards are woefully outdated and can no longer be repaired. What a sad welcome to Placerville for these softball players and their families. So Matt Lishman submitted a successful grant this year to have those scoreboards replaced. So on behalf of the hundreds of donors to the El Dorado Community Foundation, we are tickled to present this $15,000 grant to the City of Placerville's Community Services Department to replace those worn out scoreboards. Oh. Yay! Come on over, Matt. You got to get in the picture.
No. Well, it's not. It is. It's Little League. It's Little League.
Oh, they're not going to see us as Matt somewhere. 1, 2, 3. Outstanding. Thank you. Oh, that's awesome. Nice. Excellent.
Oh. All right.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
What generous gifts. My goodness, we are a blessed community.
Thank you.
Gosh.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Incredible. We are very, very grateful.
Okay, and I would like to announce that our next community meeting to discuss the Clay Street intersection is going to be March 2nd. 5 o'clock is registration here at Town Hall. At 5:15, we're going to take a walk over to the site, and then at 6 o'clock, we're going to come back for the discussion. Oh, and by the 29th, it should be marked if you want to go out there and take a peek.
That's great.
I think, did you
Oh,
have any-
yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Some of you who have been driving around town may have noticed some fabulous new little additions. And we have 3 new little libraries in the city of Placerville, courtesy of the El Dorado County Winery Association. And there's one fabulous little library up by Starbucks on Broadway. So grab a book, bring a book, go grab a cup of coffee and enjoy your time. So, really want to thank Lexi Boger for spearheading this project along with her crew and the El Dorado County Winery, and would also like to thank our city crews who've done a fabulous job interfacing with her. And Steve, why don't you share with folks where they can find them in the rest of the parts of our city?
Most definitely, it's fun working with Lexi, man. She has a lot of energy.
She's awesome.
If you ever want to get something done, I think Lexi would be a good person to try to get to help you out.
Absolutely.
We met over in City Park, and we now have a library right there, right at the entrance to the Scout Hall. And I was over there today on another project, and the books are flying out of there like you wouldn't believe. It's really a great location because the two tot lots are right adjacent to that building. So it's off to a great start, and we're looking forward to keeping that going.
Great. Thank you. It's wonderful. What's such a wonderful gift to our community.
Wendy, real quick, how do they work?
They're really cute little wood structures with a corrugated metal top with a door that opens, and the books are free.
But
and
do you just read them on the spot there,
No,
or
you take a book. You take it with you. It's
And
yours.
Yeah.
for any-
It's
Oh,
yours. It's a free
permanently?
book. Yeah, but it's a good idea that if you take a book, you bring a book, and you feed the
Yeah, bring a
library.
book.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I had heard, that
There
you
we go.
do
Yeah.
this exchange thing, and,
Yes.
and
Exactly.
Or they'll bring them back
Or
and
bring
put
it
them
back
back
when
in.
we're done with it.
Put 'em in
Yeah.
the-
Who wants to read a book twice? Yeah, bring it back. But
All right.
or bring a new one. And that's part of what this community effort is all about, which is really wonderful. People sharing with each other. So
Great.
they stocked them first, but it's up to us to keep them going. So
Okay.
that's really cool.
How many locations are there?
There's 3. And Lexi did say they have one more. So
Oh,
if
okay.
if you have another idea.
Okay.
But I'd also, Madam Mayor, if you may indulge me, I'd also like to give another shout out to our city public works crews. There was a pretty aggressive water line break up on Broadway in one of the shopping centers under the asphalt. It was really aggressive. And yesterday they went in and fixed it. And I can't say enough. I think Nick led the team and his crews. They were so responsive. I had a lot of merchants on Broadway talk to me today, and they all remarked how fabulous our crews were, how polite they were, how kind they were, how courteous they were, how they were very, very diligent about keeping the water shut off at just the least amount of time and working with the businesses. And they did a fabulous job patching it up. They had to do some underground utility survey so they knew where to cut. Had to spray paint the asphalt, came back and cleaned it up. And the merchants just couldn't say enough about it. So really grateful to the amazing staff we have. And that's one less water leak we have in town. So yay! So well done.
Thank you,
Madam
Wendy.
Mayor.
I'll share those kind words with the staff.
Please do. I got a lot of comments commending our crews. So
Thank you. Okay, closed session report, Attorney Driscoll.
Thank you, Mayor Wilkins. I'm pleased to report tonight that the City Council has approved a tentative agreement with the Local 39, and Local 39 has also ratified that agreement. The details of the agreement and the MOU, it's my understanding, will be coming to the Council for formal adoption in one of the next 2 meetings. Should anyone have any questions regarding the terms of the agreement, they can get that information from the Finance Department or from administration.
Thank you. And adoption of agenda.
before we begin, Madam Mayor, I need to say that I will be recusing myself on the vote of item 8.6. If there's no discussion, I will simply abstain for the vote on item 8.6 as a conflict of interest. One of the crosswalks touches a property that I own, so.
Thank you.
I'll move the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we don't have any ceremonial
Roll call
matters.
vote. Sorry.
On adoption of agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about the consent calendar. Oh, jeez, I'm sorry. Jeez.
It's okay, but we know what's coming up. So it's all good.
Mixed up.
Okay, public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. State law prohibits the council from acting on items not listed on the agenda except by special action of the city council under specified circumstances. The mayor reserves the right to limit the speaker's time to 3 minutes. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. Please give any written material presented at the meeting to the city clerk for public record. And we did receive one piece of written communication, so I'm going to ask that the city attorney prepare a written statement, and it was from Larry Parker?
I will be happy to respond to that, Mayor.
Yes. Thank you. Oral communication. I'll open it up for oral communication. Okay, I'm going to close public comment. Consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote unless any member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. The reading of the full text of all resolutions will be waived unless a council member requests otherwise. We've noted the...
Still abstaining from the 8.6, sorry. I shouldn't have turned over my agenda too early.
I'll move for
I wait,
approval.
wait.
Okay, I'll wait. Blah, blah.
I'd like to pull 8.6, please.
Okay.
Also, Mayor, we have a correction to item 8.1, the minutes. It's item 13 on the minutes, and unfortunately, I have to give you one correction, if you would bear with me on the correction that I gave you. And that is the last sentence under the El Dorado County Transit Authority that starts with the committee. That should be the commission designated 2 representatives, and that whole sentence should be under the Transportation Commission rather than the Transit Authority. So with those changes to the minutes, so they're ready for approval.
Okay.
Let me know when you're.
So we have 8.6 pulled.
I'll go ahead and move the balance of the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call, please. Oh,
Members of the public?
I'm going to open up public comment on anything on the consent calendar. Okay, I'm closing public comment. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Acuna?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Mayor Wilkins?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Okay, item 8.6.
And with that, I will recuse myself. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Are you going to leave or just abstain?
I'm leaving.
Oh, okay.
Since you're discussing it,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well, my only thought on this is that, and I noted that part of this is for a bus turnout and a shelter. And I know we've had some problems up there with shelters in the past and have had to actually take, I believe, one out, and then we removed a bench in one due to the homeless or maybe kids congregating up there. And I'm wondering how, are we thinking ahead and how we're going to address that? And I don't know who to ask for an answer.
Rebecca, can you go ahead? I'm assuming that does have the shelter and this bench in it, correct?
It has the shelter. It does not have a bench
Okay, so
per
it'd be-
EDCTA's preference.
Okay, okay.
Thank
So
you.
it will not have
You're
a bench.
welcome.
Can we post it, like, no loitering, or
Well, we could-
probably not if people are going to be waiting for a bus? I don't know.
That's a difficult one.
Loiter,
Yeah.
waiting.
Are you waiting or loitering?
Yeah.
You can ask them. But I think that may be more the responsibility of EDC,
Transit?
or the Transit Authority they may have some that they do that already. I think there's the one, they are the ones that adopted the rule that there's no loitering in their facilities.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
we can kind of follow up.
we just kind of have to
those-
watch it, I
yeah.
think. And so-
So,
Can
Thank
I
you.
add along with Cleve's question or comment, maybe Rebecca knows, is this Transit's policy now not to put the benches in new shelter sites?
I believe they're being selective about their sites. I don't have the specifics of what the criteria is for that, but in this particular instance, they were very specific to not include a bench because of the sensitivities that Councilmember Borelli brought up.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to open public comment on 8.6. Okay, we'll bring it back to council.
I'll move for approval of 8.6.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Acuna?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Mayor Wilkins?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Clarici?
Aye.
Thank you. Somebody get Wendy. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Ordinances. 10.1, waive the second reading of an ordinance that would amend the text of Title 10 of the Placerville Municipal Code zoning ordinance to clarify terms, to remove constraints on the development of housing, and to bring it into consistency with the state housing law, and adopt said ordinance amendment 2015-04. Staff?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. If you recall, this item was first brought to you on February 9th at your last meeting, and you did the first reading and took public testimony on the matter. This item considered both a general plan amendment and a rezone, so this is now the rezoning portion that requires a second reading, which, if approved tonight, would become effective in 30 days from tonight. So with that, staff recommends that you waive the second reading of an ordinance that would amend the text of Title 10 of the Placerville Municipal Code, which is the zoning ordinance, to clarify terms, remove constraints to development of housing, and to bring it in consistency with state law, and to adopt said ordinance. That concludes staff's report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I don't have any questions. Oh, do you have a question?
Yes, I did.
Yes, I'm going to say something.
Okay.
Question.
Thank you, Mr. Rivas. Assuming this is approved this evening and the 30-day period passes, when would your staff anticipate the next phase, which is actually identifying those properties and beginning the actual zone change process?
Staff and also some council members have organized some meetings. Both we're going to be meeting with staff with SACOG and HCD, and then meeting with some of the state legislatures regarding looking at our designation as an urban center and why we're subject to the 20 units per acre and so on and so forth. So we're probably going to wait until after those meetings to determine what would be the best course of action. So what this rezone essentially does is it's only text amendments, and so that we have the R5, which is the 20 to 24 units per acre zone district. The housing element has, as you're probably aware, 10 potential sites that could be subject to the R5 zone district. And as you recall, in the past, we also received a list, quite a lengthy list of potential sites that were provided by Mick and Brady McGuire, and we want to evaluate those sites as well. And so I would say, hopefully, we would begin, if we get the green light from subsequent to the meetings and it looks like a go, we'll probably start then evaluating the sites, bring them, and then hopefully come in the next couple of months with, we'll go to the Planning Commission first, of course, and then bring it to council for actual rezoning of these sites to meet our arena numbers.
During this period, thank you for that, Mr. Rivas. And during this period, we're not in any danger of being held in noncompliance by the state housing.
Our housing element is currently not in compliance. So we're in that.
We're already in trouble.
We're already in the doghouse, if you will.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember,
I'm sorry, just one piece of information that
Certainly, sir.
I believe, I forget who it was, it might have been Councilmember Thomas asked me this question, so I researched it, in terms of, is there a deadline of when we need to get that zoning done? And there actually is, within 3 years of the plan adoption, or the original plan period, which was 2014. So by 2017, we have to do this zoning, or we may face additional penalties like we did last time, which increased our numbers that we had to do. So that's the kind of a deadline that is out there that we need to be aware
I
of.
believe that was Councilmember Thomas that asked that question, and that is very valuable information, because that is an issue that is a concern for the citizens, as well as the issues with the impacts on our staff and trying to meet these deadlines and juggle all the different criteria.
So 2017, do we know when in 2017? Is it January or is it December?
That's a big
Yeah, exactly.
My recollection is we adopted our housing element in December, and so.
Good.
Oh,
Okay,
good.
well, that's okay.
I know you'll
We'll try
keep
and
us
confirm
updated,
that, but
okay.
I know it's 2017, I need to do some
Okay.
more.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
Appreciate that.
Madam Mayor, if I could briefly follow up with a couple of additional comments on this item. Again, I want to thank staff for doing their best to make sure that the city is in compliance with the state regulations, whether or not we agree with them or not. That is not their charged task. In regards to what Mr. Rivas did mention, thank you, sir. In my no vote at our last meeting, one of my goals was to begin that contact process with Sacramento, because it's obvious that each time this is an issue, the restrictions have become more impossible for us to meet. I began that effort and found out that Councilmember Thomas also began that effort, and we both contacted our Assemblymember Bigelow, and Councilmember Thomas has an excellent working relationship with his staff, his chief of staff. She has taken that initiative and gotten some communication started, getting some clarifications, explaining the situation to our assemblyman. The beauty of our assemblyman in his district is that it is all in the foothills, and we are. There's no doubt that we are not the only jurisdiction that has these urban-rural conflict with our state housing regulations. So I think we're making very nice progress there. Council member and I have teamed up to work with our assembly member. Also contacted our senator, State Senator Gaines, and myself, City Manager Morris, and Councilmember Clarici, who is also our advocate at SACOG, have a meeting scheduled with the senator in Sacramento on March 14th in the morning. So we will have information to present to the senator so that he and his staff can be aware of the impacts that are going on. And we've also been studying the Levine bill, which was the one that came out of the Bay Area, that different set of goals, but they still needed to have adjustments made to their zoning criteria. And it's become a team effort to pursue getting some answers not only at the state legislature, but also through SACOG, who is our regional planning partner, and I think will be huge in helping us assist either finding an existing exemption or actually creating some legislation that addresses the realities of our topography and our building economy here in Placerville. Perhaps my colleagues would like to add their thoughts. And
oh, sure. It's regrettable that the folks that were here last time aren't here again, because we did hear their concerns, and we have to balance complying with the state regulations as they exist today, not as we would like them, but as they actually exist. We have an obligation to protect the city from actions that the state might levy against us, which means protecting the citizens of the city from the impacts of those actions. And we have enough history when we get sideways with the state. Now, that doesn't mean, as Councilmember Acuna has pointed out, doesn't mean we have to just lay down and take it. And so one of the things I did, it just so happened that I had a meeting the next Thursday, last Thursday at SACOG, and I spoke with the executive director, Mike McKeever, and told him of our problem, and he's aware of what's been going on up here. They've actually been involved off and on a number of issues with us in the past. SACOG is the keeper of the numbers in terms of how some of these things are determined, urban and rural and whatnot. Most of their work is prescriptive. I don't want it to be, and no one should think that SACOG is down there trying to figure out ways to mess with Placerville. A lot of the work they've done is driven by the census and then by the legislation. But they do have a strong voice, and they do have some capacity potentially to help us. So we're going to be meeting, and I think this is really quite telling. Mike McKeever suggested that he and some of his staff come up and meet with us up here to talk about this issue, and I imagine we'll probably be talking about a couple other things, but to talk about this issue specifically, to see if we can come up with a way, even with the existing regulations, within the existing regulatory framework, to lessen the impact on the city, and if anything, just go back to our pre-penalty numbers would be a great benefit to the city. Just to go back to those numbers would be quite something. So, and we'll be meeting with them on March 10th in the morning, which is fortuitous because it's good to go talk to your elected officials and they can commiserate with how awful things are in Sacramento, even though they're there. But it's one thing to be able to give them information and maybe come up with a plan that they can then help us execute. So, like I said, it's regrettable, and hopefully the word will get out that we did actually hear these people's concern, the folks that came to the last meeting's concern, And we're trying to act on it. We're doing our utmost to act on these things, and who knows? It might bear some fruit.
Just in response to, I'm so glad to hear that you suggested, or Mike or whoever, because I was going to suggest that we bring them up here and take them on a little tour, because I know we did that at Transportation about the road issue, and I think it was very impressive to bring some of the folks up from Sacramento and let them see what we're up against, and, you know, especially to take them to the sites that have been recommended and show them, you know, boy, what's this going to do to us? I think it's a great, so I'm very glad to hear that you're going to do that.
Yeah, it'll be good.
And I would like to provide a little more follow-up, and thank you very much, Councilmember Acuna and Clarici, for filling us all in. And as Councilmember Acuna stated, perhaps Assemblyman Bigelow's office will be able to be a strong voice for us at the state level, because as he noted, Assemblyman Bigelow represents 9 rural counties. So all of his jurisdictions are rural in nature. And I've been extremely pleased and grateful for the response I've received at that level. I'd also like to thank our staff. And I know you all have so much on your plate, and I know you're busy compiling information to support these meetings, and appreciate, you know, you working with us to take up this charge at a state level. And some of the questions that the Assemblyman and his Chief of Staff and his team are working on, these are some of the questions that I asked that they are working on answers on. Is number one, how can we get our designation and or allotment changed at a state level, either through SACOG or at the state level? Number two, can a mechanism be developed for a rural set-aside? And also, could a mechanism be developed to count and give credit for the amount of low-income housing already in place, rather than piling on more inventory requirements? They are working on that. Also, finally, at a state level, how can we go about changing the law to give considerations for topography and geographical constraints, not just population density, which the allotments are based on? And so we will be meeting with Assemblyman Bigelow's Chief of Staff, although we've been corresponding a lot by email. And mainly what they're working on setting up for us now, along with our staff, is a meeting with the State Department of Housing. And so we're taking it up at that level. And they are also looking on how we can change public policy to fit the constraints that we're facing, as well as a lot of other jurisdictions. So, you know, our message to our residents is, you know, this is a passionate topic, especially if it's your land involved. We get that. We hear you. And as Councilmember Clarici said, we're doing what we need to do to be compliant, to preserve our city while we are taking this up at the longer picture for the longer term benefit of our city. So stay tuned.
Madam Mayor, if I could just add briefly, I too would just like to thank City Manager Morris and City Attorney Driscoll and our planning staff for their extra effort as we try to move this thing forward. And I'd like to thank all the support that I've gotten from my fellow council members in moving this thing off of dead center and seeing if we can get some realistic answers. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm going to open up public comment.
Sue Rodman, resident of Placerville. Several times I've brought up the idea of, do we have an inventory of housing that actually already meets these designations? And if we do, why isn't it already zoned the R5 zoning? That would give us a whole lot of leeway if we just got an inventory that says, okay, Cottonwood already meets this. Is it zoned R5? I don't think so. So if we were to look at what we already have in the city that is not currently zoned R5 but meets the R5 designation and at least get that zoned as R5, that would take some of the pressure off of the rest of it. Because I think now it's just R zoned, you know, up to 16, and they could go a little more if they had that they were approved to do it. But I think we do have areas in Placerville that already meet R5 zoning, but we haven't taken advantage of doing an inventory to find out where those are and actually zone them R5 and take credit for the fact that we already have R5 housing in the city and we already have low-income housing in the city. But if you can't prove that you already meet some of these to SACOG and to the state, they aren't going to listen. But if you can say, okay, here's our inventory, and here are all the areas that already meet the constraints of R5, and we have already zoned these for R5 now, I think we could help ourselves out a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, I'm going to close public comment and bring it back.
I would just like to add, if that's possible for staff to answer that question, because I think it's an
Wendy, you noted
excellent question, and I think we can answer it.
I'm going to take a shot and then let Pierre add in, but Ms. Rodman, I want to add that existing housing that is in place does not count. We do have an inventory of our affordable housing. It's in our last housing element that we did. But those apartments that are already built, doesn't matter if we rezone those to R5, that they want new land, new possibilities of new housing to be zoned R5. So that would not do us any good to zone something that is already built to R5. It doesn't satisfy the requirement under HCD. So.
I think it would at least give you some talking points.
Mayor, I recognize, it does give us some things to work on with SACOG when we talk about our regional housing numbers, and those are the things that we are preparing to go to them with, to talk about the number of affordable housing units we already have, the percentage of housing that is already affordable within Placerville, and those type of statistics. So hopefully that will give us some information to show why this law as currently written does not fit Placerville.
I kind of call that our credibility, having our proven track record, and we do have a proven track record.
And that's the other talking points we're looking at the state level is what is the mechanism for getting credit for inventory already in place, and
yeah,
is
and you address that when you
exactly, and so that is certainly an issue that we are taking up at a state level, because it's a good question. It's a very good question. Absolutely.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I just want to respond to another point that the speaker made, and that's that there is already existing developed lands that would meet the R5 zone district, and I just want to say that is not the case. I think the closest higher density apartment complex that we have in the city is the Cottonwood Senior Apartments, and it's under 20 units per acre. We currently have, you know, aside from the R5 that we're creating, we have 3 other apartment zone districts, and one has a maximum density of 8 units per acre, then we have a 12 units per acre, then a 12 units per acre, and now we have the 20 to 24 units per acre, which we're required to create and then zone available lands. And again, we do not get credit. This is based on our RENA numbers. It's the fair share allocation process that takes place where, based on population projections, so it's new population, right, not old, and that's our fair share of accommodating low income and very low income. So that's where that comes from, and that's the reason why we're not able to look at what we already have. Though I agree it's a good talking point, because I think we do have a large number of low-income housing apartment complexes in the city, and we do have an inventory of those. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one real quick question. I've been thinking about this, is there any way that because I know you've talked about in the past, and you brought it up the last meeting about that we have helped the county out in helping them meet their quota. Is there any way that the county and city can work together for establishing?
Under the exist, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I don't know who's going to answer me, but I had that thought when I was thinking about Mark's comment about how we had assisted the county in years past in helping them to meet their quota.
I guess in a literal sense, and I want to put words in Councilmember Acuna's mouth, but I think he was speaking more figuratively in a way that the city has taken on a greater share of low-income and very low-income apartments rather than the county has.
Okay.
Say, for example, Eldorado Hills. I mean, they've fought having their fair share, so it's gone on other areas in the county, just an example. But there's nothing in the regulatory scheme that allows the city and the county to work together and, well, maybe it's more suitable to have it in this location of the county and the city gets credit and vice versa.
Okay.
The RENA numbers, the fair share, the county has its own RENA numbers that it has to comply with. It has its own housing element and has to meet, HCD's requirements, separate from the city, and the city, of course, separate from the county.
Okay, so along those lines, and I know that they're asking for a 2x2, but we did discuss that at our 2x2 meeting, and the county also indicated that they're having problems in meeting this too. So I'm wondering if they might want to join forces and help push this issue. Just a suggestion.
Madam Mayor, if I may, just because I worked for the county
I
for
know
almost
you did.
24 years, and
A little background.
and I did the housing element for the county back in, I think, 1991 or 92 housing element update. So, but anyways, the county has a large inventory of lands that are suitable for low and very low income. So their housing element is certified, and they do not have an issue such as the city of Placerville has.
I think we should go our own.
Yeah, they're not geographically constrained like we are.
Well, okay, then maybe I misunderstood what one of the supervisors said, is that they're having, as far as designation or something, and I don't know if you, maybe Mr. Morris remembers, but Mike Rinaldi is the one who made a statement about the housing, because I brought it up at the 2x2. So.
My feeling is we have momentum. We have we're nimble. We have
focused.
We have focused kind of plan of attack here, and as we move forward and explore this issue, perhaps we can be a resource to the county too as time goes on.
And they've got land and we don't.
Right,
so.
exactly.
And I want to thank
Thank you, Mr. Rivas.
Mr. Rivas. He did a very nice job in representing what my thought was, and that is, during any course of time, you would look at the number of projects that we would be taking on and considering versus what may be going on in the county areas that surround us. And we were completing a high number of projects and very little of that because, of course, the economy is what it is and people want the highest and most valued use. So they were not looking for these types of projects. So thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
I'll move
Do we
the
wanna make
agenda.
it-
I'll move the agenda item since I did it last time.
I'll second it.
I'm going to ask for a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Thomas,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Clarici,
Aye.
Mayor Wilkins,
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli,
Aye.
Councilmember Acuna.
No?
Okay, we have no public hearings, no discussion action items, so we'll move to council reports from other agency meetings. We haven't had a transit meeting since last time, and so Transportation Commission report. Councilmember Thomas?
Now, I was not there. Actually, I don't think we've had one since.
We haven't.
Yeah, no, we haven't. Yeah, that's right.
We've got a schedule.
To me once before.
That's right.
I had to recreate a meeting that didn't exist.
You did a good
It's
job.
upcoming.
That's right, it's upcoming.
Good fact.
Okay, LAFCO, Councilmember Acuna.
Nothing to report, Madam Mayor.
SACOG, Vice Mayor Clarici.
We did have a meeting.
Yes.
And, yes, and it was a good one. The big news, and once again, as I always like to say, Placerville sort of orbits the center of gravity that is SACOG and the Sacramento region. But we did approve the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which is like our regional transportation plan that the Transportation Commission up here does. And that included the environmental document. It's quite an undertaking. Our staff, actually in particular, but also staff at the county and then the other regional staffs got high marks for working with SACOG staff and really putting this thing together. And I want to recognize our staff and as a role as a commissioner on the Transportation Commission, the county staff are working with SACOG and making this happen. It shows that if you don't look at something as a total adversary, you can actually get some good out of them. The money that flows through, the money that we get, a lot of the money we get flows through that entity. So we have to work hand in glove with them. So that was, it's a milestone. It's a multi-year document. It's 4 years, I think, or so. And it's like our RTP. They get re-upped every 4 years. And so it's, that was the major accomplishment of the meeting. I also would like to say that I did, we all get to say, like, you know, they do a round table at the end of the meeting. Every commissioner or every, what are we again? Director gets to say their thing. I usually say come to Placerville and spend money, and then tell them what's going on. I actually put out a request on behalf of Old City Hall and our conundrum with it, that if any of them had encountered a similar problem, that we are looking for ideas on how to deal with Old City Hall. I don't want to say that everybody rushed with some great ideas, but I did get some positive feedback and some interesting thoughts. So, you know, as that process moves forward, we can talk about that and that. But I wanted to share that with you, let you know that one good thing about it is you have like 40 or 50 years that all kind of sometimes have the same problems we do. So that's it for SACOG.
Thank you. We have SEDCOR from Councilmember Borelli.
I have a meeting coming up.
Okay, and 2 by 2, Thomas?
Yes, thank you. We did. We had actually an excellent meeting, and I'm very pleased to fill the council in on this. For the last 3 years, we've been talking about really looking at regional planning with the county in terms of our sphere of influence. And last 6 months, I'd say it's gained some traction, which is really exciting. So we will be coming before you in May, I believe.
First of March.
March, that's right. We'll be having an agenda item on this and then perhaps a joint workshop with the Board of Supervisors at the end of May. And what we're looking at is like I said, regional planning in terms of land use and as well as revenue. And through SACOG, we were very blessed to, was it a grant? Yes, it was. We received a grant and have the services of Robert Liberty from the University of Portland, who is helping us. He's an expert in this field, and he's helping us, the city and the county, draft, you know, this agreement and where we go with regional issues. So it's gaining traction. Stay tuned. Look forward to having a very vibrant conversation with the 5 of us, as well as the Board of Supervisors, and with the community, and seeing where we want to go. With how we look at development as in terms of where it's best suited rather than where we have to have it from either a revenue standpoint or even a zoning standpoint. So I don't know if Patty wants, Councilmember Borelli wants to just add to that.
On that particular sharing.
On the 2 by 2, yeah.
Cooperation. And
right.
The one thing, too, that I thought was good news is that I'm pretty sure we're going to get our a request for money for the pool.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's a big one. Steve is looking at me. So,
he's not counting chickens.
No, but I know it was presented by Vicki Sanders, who's the head of Parks and Rec, and I took it that it looked pretty positive. So
Vicki's really championed that at a county level, and
she's really
good
support for us.
Did you have one more thing?
I have one more thing, actually. It's not a, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I just do a quick correction? I believe what happened is SACOG got a grant.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then they did a contract with Portland State to do
That's
these
right.
studies and help some of their communities. So I want to make sure
It's
that
more
was
than just our community.
correct.
Right,
They're doing it for
exactly.
others too. Correct.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that team was here last week, and we were all of us were invited, well, the 2x2, and none of us could go. So we didn't get a chance to talk to them. But they are just so, I've kind of been emailing back and forth, and they are just so enthusiastic and really wanting to help us. So I think it's going to be
Sounds exciting.
Well, and just to add to that, this model is an evolving model that a lot of jurisdictions do, sort of these cross-boundary agreements, and it gets rid of the border wars, you know, and so you're not just like, we get that building X in ours rather than theirs. You're actually cooperating with them, and it really is, it is a lot of folks in the region, and it would be interesting to get a list of it, but a lot of folks in the region are doing this now, and so it's actually, it's an idea that's gaining steam.
Well, it seems like every group that we belong to, that's the battle cry, is this cooperation, coordination, and proving to people that, you know, it doesn't do any good to have the border wars because nobody gets anywhere.
And to compete with each other.
Exactly.
Everyone loses on
Exactly.
that front.
Yeah, so everybody's kind of going for that same.
I did have one other item, and it's not good news. But
Then
it's
we
just,
don't want to hear it.
It's something we actually talked about it at SACOG, but it just came across. The Board of Equalization is reducing the variable gas tax rate again, and it's going to go from 12 cents to 9.8 cents, and it's going to start July 1st of this year. If you may recall, I think it went from 18 to 12. That was their first move, and now it's going to. So it essentially, in the course of about 18 months, it's been cut in half almost.
And explain what that means.
Well, that means we get less money from our 200,000, or what, I don't even want to guess. The gas tax money we get will be reduced by another, whatever that number is. That's almost 20%, I guess.
And we don't
It's
get
actually-
anything
it is-
now. So.
Yeah, and so, once again, this shines a very bright light on our need to figure out a way to to look for ways to fund our road improvements and maintenance beyond these guys, because these guys are not worried about potholes in Placerville. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any requests for future agenda items? Any council member? Okay. City manager and staff reports?
I just wanted to mention a couple of things, and one of them's kind of a request. I want to mention that I think I've let you know individually as I've talked to some of you about the community cleanup day that we were working on. I just want to get that date out there, even though it's not official yet. Your next council meeting, you'll have a report on that. But it's scheduled for April 30th, which is a Saturday, and that will be a morning thing. And Steve Yule is doing a bunch of work on that, and he'll report on that next meeting. I've been doing some minor stuff helping him out, but it's exciting. We're expecting somewhere 400 to 500 people for that event. Just kind of a preview. I believe Steve has confirmed a group to serve breakfast when they get there, to a large group, which is says a lot.
I was going to ask you about that. How do we, because I said I'd help out. How do we sign up with Steve? Is he going to put out a list? Or?
It will be eventually, yeah. We haven't got to that point yet.
Oh,
we need to get it approved by you at your next meeting, and then you'll get all of the information. But this is just kind of a preview for what's
Put it on
coming.
our calendar.
So, the second thing, we've been talking since January about scheduling a council member goal-setting workshop.
Yes.
I would like to suggest that we use the 5th Tuesday, which is in March, which is March 29th, which would be possibly a neighborhood chat. But I would like to suggest, if it's all right with council, that we schedule that as a goal-setting workshop to use that meeting. I don't think there's a big need to focus, at least on a chat, on the infrastructure stuff that we've been talking about. We will continue that process. We're not dropping that at all, but I thought that might be a good use of that 5th Tuesday of March, if that's all right with the council.
Thank you. Upcoming items. Items tentatively scheduled for the next regularly scheduled city council will include Mallard Lane Street Frontage Agreement, WPI for Phase 1B Award, TEA claim to EDCTC Trails, and City Community Cleanup Day approval. And the next regular council meeting will be held on March 8th, 2016, 5:30 closed session, 6 p.m. regular session, but don't forget about the community chat on the Clay Street on March 2nd. Thank you.
And say the times again on that chat. We meet at
Chat,
5?
we meet here at 5. 5:15, we'll walk over to the site, and then we'll return and have the meeting, the chat here at 6. Thank you.
Thank you.